done. We're all going to have to sacrifice something.
At the end of the day, I'm out there. I feel good. I don't feel pain.
Don't get nervous now.
Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat?
Right now. Booker, long three-pointer. That's good. Devin Booker with a 7-footer right on him.
It's a 0-0 mindset for us going into Game 3. We know it gets rowdy in Milwaukee, but I think we're ready for it.
Feels like the Bucks are about to bite the dust. The Suns have a commanding 2-0 series lead, and that's because of their starting guards. Devin Booker, Chris Paul combined to score 113 points in this series, the most by a starting backcourt in the first 2 games of the final series since this was tracked in 1971. So how about that? Bring in our guys, and also Seth Greenberg with us now. Legs, I'll start with you though. How do the Bucks get back in this, considering how the Suns are playing right now, which is basically off the charts?
Well, all right, a couple things are going to have to happen when they go to Milwaukee. It's not just going to be the home cooking and the adrenaline of the crowd. You've got to make some adjustments. They made some for Game 2 with regard to how they were playing ball screens. I like that adjustment. They weren't switching as much. They were fighting over more screens. They started there. But now they've got to pay attention to detail in terms of 5 guys being locked in on coming up with long rebounds, on coming up with loose balls. That extra bit of effort and attention to where the basketball is to make sure you limit some of these plays that Phoenix is capitalizing on. So that's first. That's not a technical adjustment. That's just an effort adjustment and a focus adjustment. And then offensively, you're going to have to get more, obviously, out of Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday. If Middleton was pretty good in the first game. He looked like himself, really struggled in Game 2, but he hasn't been to the foul line in 2 games. Can't happen. He's their second best offensive player, and it shows you the lack of aggression in trying to get to the basket. Jrue Holiday is another guy they tried to get going at the start of Game 2. First play of the game, they ran a set for him to try to get him the first shot. He took 11 shots in the first half. He's just having a very difficult time finishing right now. He's not finding the deep ball either. So if you want to talk about an adjustment, how about their next 2 offensive players showing up at the same time? That would be a big help for Giannis Antetokounmpo and Mike Budenholzer as well. And then defend the three-point line better. They've been giving up too much space, over-helping on penetration, and allowing kickouts at will, and the Phoenix Suns are finding the right guy every time. So there are things Milwaukee can clean up as they go home.
Yeah, and like so many of us said coming into Game 2, Giannis needs to step up, Giannis needs to step up. He did exactly that. The supporting cast now has to do their part. Seth, want to bring you in. This Phoenix Suns team, again, playing off the charts. I don't even know how you stop them at this point, but which players stood out to you more than any other in this game?
Well, I think Mikal Bridges. You talk about, I think the Phoenix Suns have a mentality, what I call good, better, best. It's kind of a Villanova philosophy. Give up a good shot to get a better shot to get the best shot. And when you look at Mikal Bridges, what he brings to this team. All right, the ball finds him. He's a terrific cutter. He runs the floor. He's an elite defender. And he makes the right play, but that's just Suns basketball. You know, you look at Devin Booker. Devin Booker took 25 shots yesterday. The guy rarely takes a bad shot. These guys play for each other. They've got tremendous trust. You know, you talk about being connected, they're connected. On the other end, you're talking about a Milwaukee team that Giannis was terrific. And Perk, I got to tell you, I mean, I think Chris Middleton is a great player, but he's no Batman, and he's got to show up if the Bucks are going to have a shot at this thing. Because the one Batman dropped 42 last night. The other guy, whether it's Robin or Alfred the Butler, those 2 guys have got to show up for the Suns to have a shot.
I love that. Perk, I'll take it out to you. Giannis was terrific.
Give me a smile.
Coach Seth, let me enlighten you on something. You know, when I say a Batman mentality, a Batman is a guy that you could go to down the stretch to close out games. Chris Middleton has been there throughout the playoffs for the Milwaukee Bucks. And Giannis has came in on the post-game conference and said that down the stretch in the 4th quarter, I don't mind Chris Middleton to take over because he's a guy that could knock down timely shots. He's a guy that can create for himself. He's a guy that could walk up to the line and shoot almost 90% from the free throw line, and he has proven it to us throughout this whole entire playoff run, even when Giannis wasn't on the floor. And I'm not taking away nothing that Giannis did last night far as his dominance in the 3rd quarter, but let me tell you something about his dominance in the 3rd quarter. His dominance in the 3rd quarter took away from others, and it fell right into the scheme of things for the Phoenix Suns because the Phoenix Suns said, okay, Giannis, we see you in attack mode, so what we're going to do, Some of those baskets were so easy for Giannis, and the Phoenix Suns were allowing him to do it. They said, you know what? We're going to let you do you, and we're going to take away the others. And for the whole entire third quarter, we watched Jrue Holiday and we watched Chris Middleton stand around and watch Giannis go to work. We watched Giannis go to the free throw line, whether he was making 1 out of 2 free throws. So when I say that Batman phrase, I'm saying to a guy that could close the game in the fourth quarter when it matters the most, when it comes down possession by possession, and Giannis haven't showed us that yet.
Look, Perk, I agree with he's got to close, but come on now, Perk. Give me a break. Giannis was phenomenal. They had no answer. I think the big question for this series right now is Torrey Craig is out, obviously Sarik's out. What kind of impact could that have on the Suns moving forward? Because they have little depth up front. And let's face it, you played in championship games, right, Perk? A series doesn't start until someone wins a road game.
Okay, guys, let me jump in because we got to go. Let me jump in because we got to cover a lot of different stuff. But I'll tell you what, this is why this series is so provocative. So much to talk about on all this stuff. Seth, great to have you with us. Guys, we'll be right back to you in a little bit.
He had his head down. He made him look up at him. He leaned into him. And you could tell that was really coaching. As a player, as a player, that's what you need, and that's what you love to see from your coaches.
Speaking of coaching, Q, I want you to listen to something Stephen A. Said last night on SportsCenter after Game 2, something we have been talking a lot about on the Bucs side of things with Mike Budenholzer. And I just want to get your reaction to it, but first take a listen to it. Here's Stephen A.
You see Devin Booker hitting shots early, okay, from three-point range, and assistant coaches are looking to talk to Budenholzer, and Budenholzer's not even listening to them, okay? He's not making any in-game adjustments. That was a pivotal problem as far as I'm concerned. We can look at Jrue Holiday and no 7 for 21 shooting. He was absolutely awful offensively. Middleton, he really needs to look in the mirror. When Pat Connaughton has more points than you coming off the bench, he had 14, you had 11, even though you took 6 more shots. That's incredibly problematic. You waste an effort from Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was nothing short of sensational, and primarily because you didn't make the necessary in-game adjustments. It's like any time you throw a monkey wrench into the plan that Budenholzer had coming into it, then he seems to be a bit flummoxed.
Now, we look at players and we say, well, they got to make shots, right? You talk about Middleton, he's got to make shots. Jrue Holiday's got to make shots. Giannis can't do it all by himself. But what Stephen A. is saying, and a lot of people say this about Budenholzer, is that adjustments-wise, he has not been good. As a player, do you look to your coach and say, hey, what are we doing? And if he doesn't make an adjustment, does that affect the team's mentality?
I can't say that I'm arguing with some of the stuff you just said. And if I'm a player, we do look to our coaches for the adjustments. But I mean, the one thing I will say, I feel that the Coach Bud, he made adjustments from game 1 to 2. But I think the key word in that sentence was in-game adjustments, and that's what we haven't seen him do. Because I think I applaud him for the way and the style in which he switched guarding the pick and roll last night. They started off very aggressive with Chris Paul and anybody in the pick and roll. But the thing was they were getting over the pick and roll and fighting through and staying with them. But the thing that I think stands out when they talk about in-game adjustments was that they, to a fault, they stuck to the plan. Sometimes you would see the screen, a few steps over half court, which is way too high to be fighting over a screen or getting over. At that point, you should redirect and go under because he's too high. Unless it's Steph Curry or somebody pulling up from half court, you shouldn't be going over a screen out there. And they continue to do that, deep into the second half after, Phoenix adjusted and playing it differently. They continue to fight over, and that's where Chris Paul began to shake loose a little bit and get to his mid-range and get downhill. And I think that was a point where it really stuck out to me. He's not changing up. He's not making in-game adjustments with this.
Quentin Richardson joining us here this morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Q, let me ask you this question because Han seems to, he's batting it around in his head a little bit and trying to convince me that certain things could happen. Chris Paul wins the championship, ride off into the sunset. His deal is up. He can exercise out. Does he go back to Los Angeles and team up with LeBron James and Anthony Davis and back home in L.A. where his family is at, or does he stay in Phoenix to ride this thing all the way out?
Call me crazy, man, but I think he stays put, especially if they win a championship. I mean, I don't see how you walk away from the defending the title in the same place. And then some of these relationships and bonds that I feel like he's got. I feel like what he has with Monty Williams is what makes this season possible. The relationship that him and Devin Booker, bonded right away and hit off. I think that's why they're able to have this season. And the same thing with DeAndre Ayton. I think those things will be too much. I think as long as everything contractually works out the way he wants it to, I think all of those other things, especially if they really win the title, I don't see him going anywhere.
See, I would think that's his out, right? Got your ring. That would be the out. If they don't win the championship, I feel like I still owe you some time. But I got you your ring, and now it's like let me just finish up playing with LeBron, playing in LA, right closer to home. But again, as Key always says, that's why I'm a reporter and not a player. I think of it always as for the story. What's the better story? But Q, I just want to shout out your podcast, Knuckleheads Podcast. You and Darius Miles. It's a must listen because it's a lot of fun. And I know you had LJ on recently, Grandmama telling those stories. It's always a good listen. So we always love having you on. Thanks, my man.
All right, Q.
Thanks for waking up early, Q.
All right, Quentin Richardson again, a Clipper. He played a lot of different teams, but as he mentioned, the Clippers. I thought it was a funny way he put it. It's like, yeah, maybe now more deserving, but there was a time not
very
so
tactical.
much.
Clearly a bad owner.
But we are asking
a bad owner, a bad dude.
I mean, maybe the worst possible owner ever. But let's not do that ranking.
Yeah,
let's instead ask the question that we've been asking, and we've asked you, we ask everybody else.
Top 5 bad owners.
Yeah.
The list.
The list.